r/AskReddit. What's the most unprofessional thing a doctor has said to you? I had a leading allergy specialist say to me, well, I'll be ducked if I know after lengthy investigation over several weeks into my post-nasal drip issues. He had tried everything and was all out of ideas. I didn't mind at all. In fact, I rather appreciated his honesty. Similar thing happened with my father-in-law. Men in that family have huge heads and thick necks. Not fat, just structurally over-engineered. He was having neck pain and went in to get a surgery consult after seeing other doctors. The doc comes in for the consult, takes one look, and says, if my head was that big, my neck would hurt too. My fill-about fell over laughing. And they had a great working relationship from there out through the recovery. You sure he didn't fall over from the weight? Doctor was doing a pap smear and he said whoa at one point while the speculum was in. I never did find out why, but I'm assuming he was just amazed by my awesome jina. Doctor was doing a pap smear and he said whoa at one point while the speculum was in. What the hell is that? Keith. Keep it together. Play it cool. She doesn't know you're the janitor. Okay miss. I'm done with your burgeoner. Not said, but done. I was 12 years old at the pediatrician having a physical. A youngish, probably late 20s early 30s, attractive, to my 12-year-old brain, blonde woman doctors gives me my physical. It comes time to turn my head and cough. I have a 12-year-old boner in anticipation. She does the whole check for hernia thing. Then just before telling me I can pull my pants up, she flicks the head of my penis down with her finger, springing it like a diving board. She smiles slightly and continues on with the rest of the physical like nothing happened. I don't know if she was trying to make my 12-year-old mind feel at ease about the embarrassing, to me anyway, situation, but I've never forgotten that moment. Edit, spelling. During my first physical at about the same age, my female doctor counted my testicles, saying one thing eating me, two thing eating is, probably trying to put me at ease. But it was so weird and out of place. I had one when I was much younger and distinctly remember the nurse referring to them as willy beans. Which, what the duck? You could lose 5 pounds. 2 problems with that. 1. It was my husband's doctor's appointment. 2. I could lose about 25 pounds. God, I'm always so grateful for my doctor when I get into threads like these. She doesn't pretend I'm not overweight or anything, but we have honest conversations about my current lifestyle and realistically phased changes. Like, I'm pretty sure if most people could just drop the weight without any guidance or support, they'd have done it already. I'm pretty sure if most people could just drop the weight without any guidance or support, they'd have done it already. If doctors are going to make one-off, not really trying statements like the one above, you could lose 5 pounds, they may as well make that statement count calories. Seriously, I'm not sure why they don't push that. I had a positive pregnancy test and went into my OB to get a blood test confirmation. Standard practice is to repeat the blood test after 48 hours to see if your HCG levels have doubled, which indicates the pregnancy is progressing normally. About 10 minutes before my second blood draw, I received a call from my OB's office. Since I was already in the hospital parking garage at that time, I decided to just go into the office to see what the call was about. In the waiting room, full of patients, a nurse decided to tell me that I was miscarrying, and they called because they wanted to save me the trouble of getting my blood drawn. I made her draw my blood anyway, knowing that there was no way they could diagnose a miscarriage with only half of the information. Then proceeded to walk out of the office in tears, in front of everyone who had just heard what she had told me. Sure enough, my numbers had doubled. They unfortunately continued to fluctuate after that, which indicated that I was not having a miscarriage, but an ectopic pregnancy. Undiagnosed, an ectopic pregnancy can lead to serious complications, including rupture of the fallopian tube, internal bleeding, and potentially death. I continue to go to that OB office because my doctor is amazing, but that nurse is on my list forever. That nurse deserves to be fired. If everyone heard her tell you about the miscarriage, That's a massive privacy violation. In addition to her being horribly callous and an idiot. Did you tell your doctor about it? Because I'd assume most good doctors wouldn't want someone like that on their staff. I did tell my doctor about it. In regards to the confusion that it created. But in all the stress and turmoil of getting the proper diagnosis and treatment. Following up on what happened to her was the last thing on my mind. My doctor was incredibly sympathetic. I haven't seen that nurse around the office since. This happened back in January. And at about 18 weeks into a viable pregnancy at this point. I've received really wonderful care from the staff that I have interacted with this time around. If I do happen to see her roaming the hallways, I might just chew her out and blame it on the hormones. Well, duck me sideways. Got an x-ray of my back/hips. Doctor's first time seeing them was with me in the room. That, folks, is how I found out my back is broke. Edit, for those asking. One of my legs is longer than the other. So my hips don't align. Anything involving moving my hips since I was a kid has basically made the base of my spine grind against itself. By the time we figured this out, my L4 and L5 discs has nearly degenerated to nothing. And my sciatic nerve was basically sitting there waving at everyone without any protection in that area. I respect that. Wouldn't even be mad at that response. You know how to spread M. Was at the gyno's office and needed to open my legs a little more in the stirrups during the examination. When I was about 14, hadn't even seen a penis yet, I had to go get tested for strep and my doctor told me to say AHH, so I would open up the back of my throat. I knew how to do it without making the noise, so I did it, and he swabbed me and said, in a judgy tone, "Wow, you're really good at that. See, I'm a straight, average looking guy and I've had doctors/dentists tell me this too. I don't know if it's Excel or not to them. You might actually just be really good at it." One dentist said something like, "Wow, most people gag when they have poles this far down their throats. You're really good at this." I need you to be fully firm, referring to my penis. I was referred to a urologist for Peyronie's disease. I believe my penis has been developing a bend in it. As part of his assessment, the urologist gave me an injection in the penis and some pornography. He left me alone in the room so I could become erect. Then he returned and used a vibrator to make me fully firm. However, when I told him I was going to have an orgasm, he just kept going and I ejaculated. He then took some measurements with plastic rulers. He said that he needed to do this to take reference measurements to see if my condition is worsening. I have no idea what measurements he took because I was frankly overwhelmed by the experience. For him to look at my erection didn't seem completely implausible. After all, I couldn't see a problem unless I was erect. Getting me fully firm, well, that was stretching my credibility. And when he kept going until I ejaculated, that just didn't make sense. I asked about this on an online urology forum and found that this is so far outside of ethical practice that nobody would take me seriously. They assumed that I was trying to share some homo-XL fantasy I had created. Nobody believed that a urologist would act in this way. I'm not gay. And if I was trying to create a fantasy, I think I could do much better than this. Please tell me you reported this guy to someone. No. Based on the comments I received on the online urology forum, it seemed unlikely that anyone would believe me. My doctor is also my best friend and I routinely have to get surgery because of a medical problem. When he is cutting into me somewhere I cannot see, he often says oops. Somehow, saying my doctor is my best friend sounds creepier than my best friend is my doctor. It makes it sound like a one-way street. Like the doctor is their best friend. But the doctor has no idea they are even friends. Edit. Deleted my comment. This is why men don't share abuse stories. I don't know how I would react if I wake up after getting my wisdom teeth removed and find they have put cotton all around my breasts. I imagine still being drugged would dampen my reaction. But there will be a monster coming back to demand answers. You don't pee from boobs though. It's likely they had to catheterize him during the procedure for purely medical reasons and the nurse just made a highly inappropriate joke. He walked in, saw me, and said, "You're too young to have X." Clearly I'm not. My friend has always been paranoid about getting diabetes, since both of her parents have it. She's rail thin, never had an overweight day in her life, and does long distance running, karate, and yoga. One night, she realized she was seeing halos around any light she looked at. She asked her doctor to check her for diabetes, and he laughed and said she was too thin to get diabetes. She said it ran in her family, and he said it didn't matter. She wasn't fat, so she didn't have it. Her symptoms didn't go away. So she finally went to the hospital and demanded a blood test. She had ducking diabetes. If she wasn't so aware of the disease, who knows how far it would have progressed before her idiot doctor finally tested her for it. Type 1 or 2? Because type 1 you typically lose weight before you realize something is wrong. A psychiatrist told me that he didn't have time for my craziness after lying to me for weeks, telling me that I was on the waiting list for therapy when I wasn't. I found out when I went to the psychology department I had been discharged without a letter to me or my GP. Next time I saw my psychiatrist he asked how it made me feel. I told him that it felt like no one cared and just wanted to do me off and tell me what I wanted to hear, rather than check to see if what they were saying was even true. Psychiatrist said to me, that's just your depression making you feel that way. No, you asshole, it's 7 weeks of you telling me I'm on a list and saying you've been checking it yourself when you clearly hadn't. Anyone would feel fobbed off. Infuriating. Doc, I feel really nauseous and dizzy. That's just your food poisoning making you feel that way. Know it. Can you maybe do something about that? And also maybe stop making it worse by feeding me terrible food. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.